Okay, thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you about the data analytics in internal audit, how we within ING internal audit use data and use NIME. My name is Tjasse Biewenga. I'm leading the data analytics team within corporate audit. Very quick on my, now see if it's moving. Very quick on ING. ING is a global bank with a strong European footprint, offering both, let's say, the retail wholesale banking services in more than 40 countries. The headquarters is in Amsterdam. We have over 39 million customers, and based on the total assets, we are in the top 10 of European banks, and I think around 28 on the global ranking. What's important for this analytics talk is that ING has set the ambition to become a data-driven organization with analytics as a business model. So not just to support our current operations, but really to use data and analytics to create a truly differentiating customer experience. Now, that as such is already, I think, sufficient to justify, let's say, the use of analytics in our company. How does our audit world look like? We have over 400 staff, 35 different teams in more than 20 locations, more than 20 countries. And we have some kind of, let's say, matrix organization with local teams in a certain country, teams with a global view on a certain topic like lending or financial markets or compliance, and expert teams, for instance, on data analytics, but we also have expert teams on behavioral risk, on models, and so on. Now, I think our role within ING is basically the same, is highly comparable with what you are, I think, experiencing: processes, products, locations, services, what you have. Now, for the audit, we have divided that, let's say, everything in what we call audits, and they are not performed at once. They are performed with a certain cycle. So the average cycle is 2.6 years for those audits, which means that, let's say, if an audit team has finalized an audit, start to finish, around 8 to 10 weeks, they move to a next audit with new data controls, new data control tests, and the old one is not being performed for the next coming 1 or 2 years. In total, I think we have around 450 audits on an annual basis, and we aim for to have at least in 60% of those audits some kind of analytics to be applied. Now, you can understand those 250 audits. They are on one hand covering many different topics on all the retail, wholesale, lending processes. On the other hand, there are also topics which are coming back in many audits in many locations. For instance, let's say client identification is important in the current banking industry. Is a process which you see in many different locations, in many different departments, and basically they have the same type of controls and the same type of control tests. So that also means that if you talk about audit analytics, you have on one side many different tests with many different topics, but also you will have, let's say, the same tests with with many different in many different locations and many different data sources, which also means that I think if you look for, let's say, analytics in the internal audit function, the complexity, at least in our case, is not so much in, let's say, the complexity of the tooling or the complexity of the models we use, but it's basically far more in the, let's say, the wide range of topics with a lot of different data sources in there. So the challenge for us is really to, let's say, make those data available for all our staff, give them the tooling to analyze it, and also that's let's say one side, but the other side is really to create efficiencies. So if you can reuse what you have, to create consistency, that you have the same tests performed on the same topic, performed in every location. So what is key in our approach? Now, of course, we want to grow the use of analytics in our internal audit function. Data analytics needs to be an indispensable part of every audit. Now, that means that we want, it's key that all staff gets proficient to a certain level to be able to apply analytics in their audit. And we have then the expert team, the expert role for the advanced analytics, but also, of course, to support transformation. Now, what does it mean for tooling? Now, what we have seen, the people side, we want to have everyone proficient. That's not just only, let's say, giving them a training. It's really about change. It's about change in the way of working, change in behavior, maybe change in tooling. So that's one side. And on the other side, we have the audit process. So we have a large number of different topics, but also a lot of different data sources within the bank. We have to deal with really short timelines. And what does it mean for the tooling? Is really that you say, okay, the tool needs to have, it needs to be user-friendly, and with preferably low or no coding. Everything to make that change as easy as possible. On the, let's say, the audit process side, we say, okay, the tool needs to support reusability, sharing, collaboration. It needs to be flexible and able to handle all kind of file types, data sources, but also integration with other analytic tools, other tools used in the bank, and it needs to be scalable. So the tool needs to be able to handle, let's say, a corporate loan portfolio in a small unit with only 10 or 20 records, but also the billions of transactions in retail payment environment in the Netherlands. Now, and of course, we like the low licensing cost. Now, not a surprise for this data talk. I think that is why we selected NIME for it. We have NIME. I think we started NIME Analytics platform around 4 years ago. Packaging it, deploy it to make it available in, let's say, the corporate IT environment. That analytics platform is supported by a SharePoint environment, which we use for sharing and reusability, collect all the data analytic practices, including the workflows for reuse and consistency. Now, a year ago, I think July last year, we implemented the server, the NIME server, to further, let's say, make it the use of analytics even more easy for our internal auditors to put the, let's say, the main control test, the main workflows in there for guided analytics. And of course, we also support, let's say, to add computation power and data storage capabilities to that. Now, use case, I think I can show you a lot of use cases, but I think basically a lot of those use cases, if you get back to, let's say, the actual workflows, the notes itself is quite standard. It's all available, I think, in the base version of 9. The complexity is really in all the different steps and all the things you want to incorporate. I'm going to show you one other example. It's about process mining. It's our process mining workflow, which we created for the 9 server. Why process mining? Why this one? I think process mining itself is quite a hot topic at this today in internal audit. What is it? Basically, it's analyzing processes, process flows based on the log data which are available in the different applications. So basically, in a lot of current business processes, the IT applications used in there have all kind of log files, and basically saying who is doing what when for this transaction. So if you have what we call an event log, it basically has, let's say, transaction IDs. That can be a mortgage application in our environment, or an invoice or a payment. It has the different steps like creation, approval, verification, all these kind of things. And it has the attributes like a timestamp and resources. Now, as soon as you have those event logs, you can start analyzing. And now, basically, in our case, use cases are primarily process discovery. But you also can use it for, let's say, looking at efficiencies. How long does it take for a certain process step? Identify bottlenecks, but also for internal audit, things like segregation of duties can also be analyzed from there. I think that the process mining is really in between data science on one side and business process analysis on the other side. And process mining is really something where, in our case, the business auditors need to be able to play with. So play with the data, filtering, looking for certain transactions. Now you have quite specialized tooling for process mining, but especially if you want to have, let's say, 300 auditors using it, it's quite expensive. And you get a lot of functionalities which you don't use directly use as an internal auditor. So that is why we decided to look for the possibilities to define our own process mining node workflow, our process mining workflow with basic functionalities. Now, how does it look like? This is our 9 web portal with the ING taste in it. And this is how it works. So you open up the web portal, you go for solutions, and in this case, you select the process mining. When it starts, it basically works like, okay, you can upload, the auditors can upload the event log in their own data. Data is being validated for, okay, does it have all the required fields? You need to assign the columns, and then you can start with the analysis. Now, first it's the time analysis. So let's say the number of transitions over time. And you can select here, you can let's say, look for high volumes, for low season, for things that say, okay, I want to select before and after a certain change. And then you can start analyzing. So this is the first graph on analyzing based on transitions. If you have the same for, let's say, the full path, the full traces, and it just shows you for, let's say, every transaction, start, process start, process end, and also all the different steps in between. And then you can start analyzing further on, okay, what is the most frequent path? What is the less frequent? What are which steps does take most of the time? What are the most? What's the average time? All these kind of things can be selected from here. And if you select certain things, certain paths, then in the next step you can download, let's say, all the transactions in that what you selected for further analysis. Now, how does it look in 9? Now you see here all the different components, basically reflecting all the steps in there. Pre-processing is really about processing, creating the event log, so adding the process start, process end. Let's say the most technical, the most challenging part, I think, was to create the process graph. And we did that by, we use the Mermaid library in JavaScript library, and then use the generic JavaScript node basically to create a function which is building the code for that Mermaid graph. So it's just, let's say, starting from graph top down, and then node by node and edge by edge. It's just creating that in there. So I think that process mining really, this workflow is really helping us in further, let's say, start the use of process mining in internal audit in our function, make it available for all staff. And I think it's really a great showcase also for us to see what is possible in analytics. That basically brings me to the end of this talk. Already from my side, thank you very much. And I think back to Jason. Where are you there?
Tjasse, thank you so much for that. So that was, I mean, my takeaway is the idea of really using analytics, thinking of it as a business model in itself within audit. That's really fascinating. And thank you for taking us through such a tangible example of abstracting the hard stuff up a couple levels for different audiences. Really outstanding presentation.
Okay. Yeah, very good.
I'd like to go to Constance now and see some questions that we're getting from the audience. Anna, do you have some questions?
Yes, definitely. Hi, Tjasse.
Hi.
Some of the questions we got were, are you using any special nodes to do the processing mining in KNIME, or is just using normal KNIME nodes, basic KNIME nodes?
I think most of it's basically using the, let's say, the standard 9 nodes for this, and that also has to do, let's say, with because we want to have it implemented on the KNIME server. So basically that is the base version what we use on the server. So it's basically all the basic nodes.
Perfect, thank you. There is another interesting question I quite like came just now. Who comes with those analytics use cases? Are they the auditors themselves that come with the use cases for you to build, or there is a specific data analytics team that comes up with the use cases to be implemented with KNIME?
Let's say the formal process is really that it is for the business auditors to come up with, because they're, and that is what we start teaching them. If you start using analytics, really use, there needs to be an audit question behind. So that is why they come with the use cases. You see in practice that sometimes business auditors need some support to really start thinking on what is possible. So it's really a cooperation between the business auditors in our case and our data analytics specialists, which we have in our team.
Great, thank you. Yeah. So there is one question as well. Who did you have to convince, or how to convince the right people to adopt NIME? So how to convince the auditing community to adopt NIME in general?
I think what you see is that it depends a little bit on who you are talking to. Let's say the business auditors, which are currently proficient in using Excel, it's for them really to show them how easy it is, what they can do on using NIME. So it's really showing them, and not the most difficult cases, but really on, okay, what helps you in identifying and performing your analytics. You also now see that in internal audit, in recruitment and selection, more and more people come in with, let's say, already coding experience. And then sometimes you need to convince them that sometimes, let's say, a low coding tool is better to use for reusability, because that is something which can be used for everyone. So depends a little bit on who you are talking to, but yeah, you need to convince certain people sometimes there.
Definitely. Thank you so much.